You happy now?
Only thing you say is you say that I know. Only thing is you behave like you don't really know what you think, but it shows.
Hey, everyone. Welcome back to the Showrunner Podcast. This is episode 7, Managing Relationships. So important. We are very, very excited to have two fantastic guests with us. We have Marsha Greene, who's co-creator, showrunner of The Porter. Many great credits. And of course, we have Andrew Phung, who is a co-creator. And you were showrunning with
feel like I was.
The Burbs. You were absolutely, but obviously you're best known as the narrator for that Heritage Minute short on Norman Kwong. That's what people know you from.
My favorite was when I got that email about the Norman Kwong Heritage Minute. I was like, I know 100%. They're not asking me to be in it. There's no way I'm in this. They want me to narrate it. Open the email. Yup, they want me to narrate. Also, can you get us access to Simulu? That was what they were asking. I know where I stand on the pyramid.
This is the thing. This is it's great. Managing relationships.
It is.
They were obviously like, you know what? We can't get to Seema, but you know who always answers his emails?
Yeah. You know who has a Shaw email account? Andrew Phung. But it's just relationships. I said to them straight up, it was during the SAG strike. I'm like, Seema won't do it. And I think he would have if there wasn't a strike, but he won't do it because he'll get in trouble. But you know who's really great? Patrick Kwok-Chun. And that was one of just like a relationship of just being in the industry. I'm like, Patrick, and I looked up a picture of Norman Kwong. I'm like, they look so similar. Like he would do such justice to this.
Oh, that's so great.
That's great.
So then he messaged me. He's like, yeah, they offered me the role. I'm like,
amazing.
Yeah, they offered you the role, not me. You straight to offer. You're welcome.
You didn't get you got a little CFL player dog in you.
A little bit.
Yeah,
not a history making player like that.
Oh, not right. Well, but at least you helped someone else, which is very nice.
Yeah, and I think as we're going to talk about that today in relationship building, it's like, like just keeping a Rolodex of people doing good things.
Yeah.
Talented people.
I absolutely have like a spreadsheet of like people I don't want to talk to. No, I'm just joking. I have a spreadsheet of like scripts I've read and like how how I felt about them at the time, because you might read something and then like 3.5 years later, you're like, what was that thing that I read? And I just go back to my little spreadsheet and I'm like, oh, yeah. I got to bring this person in for that, because they might not have been right for the show that I was working on at the moment, but they might be right for something I'm working on down the line. Like I'm wondering, this is the thing with the writers is let's talk about relationships with showrunners and writers, especially because that's going to be one of the first relationships you have. Running a room, working with writers. I've always told people, like, writers, we're fragile creatures. And when you're showrunning, you're not just a writer, you're a manager of people. So you have to be just aware of that relationship. You have had lots of relationships as both the writer with other showrunners and as a showrunner with other writers. Like any initial thoughts on like how to get the best out of that relationship?
I think I remember really clearly the first time I was ever showrunning. I had a show in development and I had a writer's room and we're all sitting around the table, batting around ideas. And then at one point, the table just fell silent. And then I was like, oh, because I have to decide like what is going in the show, and I think having been kind of like a career writer, I was just very used to being very vocal in the room, but not being like the final call. And just recently I did a room in the beginning of the year, and I was just reminded that, when you as the showrunner know what you want, that's how you get the best out of the writers. And every bad day we had in the writer's room, which there were only a couple, were the days that I didn't know what I wanted. Mm-hmm. And then people are just endlessly pitching ideas, which may be good ideas, maybe not, but when you don't kind of know where you're going.
Yeah.
And so I think kind of to speak to the relationship, I think when you're in the room, you really want to I like to have like quite an open relationship in the room where we could all feel free to like tell our stories, as I feel like that's where the best stuff comes. But to your point, you are still kind of having to corral and manage this room and make sure that all of this stuff is for a purpose. And I'm always like, it's a break time. I'm always like, let's just talk, let's just talk for an hour. But yeah, like it's it's a balance between wanting to create, enough of a vibe so that people feel free and to like share their stories, their jokes, and be themselves, but also, and also kind of managing that, seeing how the relationship is working between other writers, that everybody is feeling that kind of freedom.
That's a very good point. Yeah. We're gonna get into writers with the other writers too, because that's also part of your responsibility, because you want to make sure your room has a certain vibe, has a certain feeling, so that creativity can happen in it. And if there's friction, not just necessarily between you and the other writer, but between some other writers, that's going to be some stuff that you got to deal with. But what you've worked on, you've been a performer in a lot of shows. You've also written a lot of shows. Like for you, working with writers, both as an actor and as like a showrunner creator, like how do you foster that relationship? Like what's any tips, any tricks?
Yeah, I think I for me, it's like a big yes and. That's like a big pillar of improvised comedy, and that's the world I'm from. Yes and. Love to yes and ideas. I never want to kill any ideas. We always try to be like, what is the nugget of that idea that we can blow up into the thing that will make it into the show, or just what's the nugget that will help even just inform the characters? Because that's sometimes the thing where it's like, it might not make it in the show, but it informs like your world, and just to know that exists in the world. And I love building the world around the characters, an even bigger world. But really, yes and. Cultivating a relationship where you just want to have fun. I approach everything with relationships that I want the person to feel so comfortable around me, but also motivated around me that they're willing to go the extra mile for me. And on Run the Burbs, this came up a lot where crew and department heads would say, we'll get this done for Andrew, or we'll work the extra time for Andrew. Because they know I'm so appreciative of their time and their talent and their treasure. Like I'm so appreciative of it that they're gonna go the extra mile.
But there's pressure with that too. Like I feel like I get that a lot too. People are like, oh, that's Anthony's show? I'll work on that show. You don't have to pay me as much. And I'm like, whoa, no. No, get your bag. Get your bag. Get what you can. Like because I also feel like, yes, I'm great to work with. I'm very collaborative, a lot of fun. And there are people who will absolutely, I literally had a grip friend of mine say, I've been offered jobs $2 more per hour, and I have taken the jobs with you because I know I'm going to have a better time. My mental health's going to be better on your job rather than being on that other thing where it's going to be a mess. And I was like, oh, that's sweet. And I'm sorry about this relationship.
But it's so true. Like I recently worked on Maureen Brebner's show, and it is kind of like anytime Maureen calls me, I'm just like, I'll go. I'll do anything for you. I'll go anywhere. Like I just know it's going to be a good room and a good show and a good experience. And that sometimes, you might get offered something, that's a little bit more more money, more prestige, more whatever, but to have a good experience, especially in the writer's room, you just really like, I love the job. Like that is the truth. I love the job. I love being in the writer's room. And so when I'm the showrunner, I really want people to have that same feeling, to be excited to go to work and to like share your ideas. And I just felt like what Andrew said was really important. Like there is usually a nugget in there of an idea that where it's okay, not that, but what I like about it is this, and maybe we can build on that. And if it isn't, also, I mean, I think showrunners, what I think writers should know is that showrunners they have so many parts of the character or parts of the story in their head. So when you're pitching something, it's like you don't know all of that. There are things you don't know. And so if you pitch an idea and it's not right, it's also an opportunity to just understand and say, why isn't it right? Well, it's not right because actually the character has this backstory or this other. And then it can be kind of a map. So I think it's good to kind of, if you can create an environment where nobody feels shamed for having an idea, like nobody's keeping score of how many ideas got in the show. It's just like we're all here trying to make a great show. But so to not take it personally, but also to take it as an opportunity to just get more inside your showrunner's head and like understand the show better, because the more you understand the show and the characters, the more your ideas will probably go the mile.
Sometimes it's a simple thing as like, oh, why didn't they use my ideas? Like, well, because it's water and we don't want the we don't want the costumes to get wet. We don't want the actors to get wet. And it's a very funny pitch, but I don't want to have to do resets on something that's going to take a long time and kill my day.
That's so specific. That's clearly Anthony recalling a
tell
moment.
Us the story
tell
us the water idea that didn't make it.
Because I've done a lot of family and kid shows, it's probably like 7 different shows.
Resets.
It's one of those things where like, I went on Secret Life of Boys, a kid show I did in Belfast. They were like, we knew that if we were going to, and the part of the problem is that show, you had to have that stuff. There had to be mess, there had to be fun, there had to be those things. But writing it into the show in a way that was responsible for production, that was the key, right? So sometimes you get pictures, you're like, oh my, what if this person falls off a barn into a bunch of feathers? And you're like, I want to see that.
Yes.
We're not going to see that.
Yeah.
What if it fell off a chair into a bunch of soft styrofoam? Like, okay, now we got something we can make.
Yeah.
So, but I wanted to jump on something you also mentioned, because it's like not shutting things down, having writers feel open and feeling good about the process. Because here's the thing, like I always feel like as showrunners, we want a certain thing. We want, we're very artistic. We want things to feel a certain way, but we also want our writers to have creative, just have to be able to be creative and to have that mindset. If they feel like they're trying to please you rather than make the show better, you're going to get pitches that are maybe not great because they're just trying to make you feel good about stuff rather than just being like, hey, listen, bring your crazy ideas, bring your fun stuff. We're trying to make this show and they should be in this window, but like, don't limit yourself to like what you think I want.
Yeah.
Bring your creativity. I think that's part of it too, because otherwise you're going to get to a place where people are just trying to make you happy. They're not trying to make the show better.
I know we were just talking about this before. Like, when this happens a lot with showrunners, and this is like a thing I really try to actively shut down because I noticed it a lot when I was a writer where, you're working on an idea and the showrunner's not in the room and people don't like it. And then the showrunner comes in the room and nobody wants to say they don't like it. and I was when I was in a room recently and we were like talking, and then finally someone said like they didn't like this thing that I was like stuck on. And I was like, well, how long were you guys going to just let me go on like this? And I get it. Like I get it. But I do think I think that's the job. Like you're there to make something together and to make something better. And so you can't be afraid. You just have to know where the line is.
Yeah.
Like if your showrunner has an idea and you don't think it's good, then it's like you can say that and you can come up and say that probably with something that you think might work better or whatever. And that's fine. And then if the showrunner is like, no, I'm committed to this. I want to make this work. Then you pivot to how do you make the thing that they want work. Right. But I don't think you should ever be afraid to say, I'm not sure it's right or this kind of thing here, but to be a part of making it better, not just criticizing what it is. But I do think that's a part of the job. And I think it's sad when you're in a room where everybody is afraid to say to the showrunner, I don't like it.
Especially in this day and age when anything you put out there, like there could be backlash for it. So I always tell my writers, like, don't have me out there looking a fool.
Yeah.
Like I remember we were having a conversation where I was like, and this actually changed my life, this conversation, because now I drink bubble tea.
Okay.
Before I didn't. Because we were talking about, like, wouldn't it be funny if someone like spit out the bubble tea and then you're like, you were just like, I don't want that out there. Like I don't want people. There's enough Asian hate. There's enough Asian hate out there. We don't want, like, especially on this show, Run the Burbs, where we're celebrating all that stuff. And I was like, all right, that's a good shutdown. That's a good time to that's a good time to be like, hey, showrunner, like that's not a good look. And then after that, I was like, you know what? I really should try bubble tea. And now I drink bubble tea. And also the show worked out too pretty good.
That's an example where people, I think, sometimes with food from different cultures, they see it and they're like, oh, I don't like the texture of it.
Yeah.
But I'm like, okay, I get that. I understand that. But I think we need to actively just give food opportunities and chances to take it all in.
Yeah.
So I think that's what it was. But I think like what you're saying is great. Where I'm going to disagree is this.
Ooh.
I did that with you, and I might do that with you.
Uh-huh.
People whom I trust and people whom I'm like have a good reputation of like, oh, they're gonna handle this
Right.
well.
Yeah.
They're
Right.
not gonna come after me.
Yeah.
But there are people
Yeah.
in our industry who, and I've heard horror stories.
Yeah.
And the truth is, like, as you host this podcast, Anthony, you're bringing on really respected people who have good reputations.
Mhm.
There are so many that
Yeah.
do not.
Yeah.
That's true.
And when you say, "Oh, don't be afraid," I'm like, but I think there is a very real world where people are afraid.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping this podcast trains showrunners that become more like the respected, fun people that we.
Yeah.
And
We should say, like, I think as a showrunner, like if your desire is to be a showrunner, cultivating that kind of like, that environment. And also, for yourself, it's like before you're a showrunner, it's like you've been a writer, you've had ideas that have been rejected. It's not that big of a deal. It doesn't mean you're not talented.
Yeah.
So when you become a showrunner, it's not that, like, not every single thing you're going to do is great. I mean, that's part of it. And it's just not. Anyway, so for the aspiring showrunners out there, I think it is healthy and helpful to be a person who is not afraid to have your writers say, I don't think this is quite working, and let's do something. But probably I know I'm like, and I have always been kind of a person who has spoken my mind in that way.
Yeah.
And I think maybe, I've just been very fortunate to be in rooms where it has been received. But I have been in rooms where it's like to learn the lesson where it's like, don't push it. It's like your job is to make the show that your showrunner is making, and that's what you have to do.
I've been very lucky to work with great showrunners, and I've learned from them what to do. And then I've also heard horror stories about bad showrunners, and I've learned from those stories as well what not to do.
Yeah.
One of the things, especially with like writers and showrunners, is I try to do check-ins. How do you guys handle check-ins with the writers that you guys work with?
I think we've done it. We've done it where we checked in with them throughout the process in regards to giving them notes on scripts. And then we also did check-ins, like this is a sidestep, but with actors as well throughout the process. I know we sat down with all the actors. Yeah. We did that at the beginning of the writing process to get their ideas, and a lot of their ideas did make it in. Like I know Jonathan came to us. He's like, guys, this is my idea. Like, it's
and
your
Ali
idea.
Hassan had that great thing with the wedding.
One joke. He gave us one joke. And we really blew it up.
We turned it into a season arc.
Yeah. So I think it's like building that relationship that goes beyond the room. I want the writers I work with to know that I'm your friend and collaborator throughout the process, throughout like life. And so when you see me at events and when we send each other text messages and memes, like Nilu Handa is someone that I worked with for 3 seasons on Burbs, and now we don't even talk about work. We just send each other memes about being 40, and going to the club. I went to the club last weekend, but at a Filipino grocery store. Have you heard about this?
No.
So Seafood City, Filipino grocery store chain, they did this thing over like the last couple weeks where they would turn the food court of their grocery store, bring in a DJ, and turn it into a club.
I love that video, by the way.
It is awesome.
Oh my God.
It starts at 8:00, goes till midnight, but you can come and go however you please. The food court is open, so I'm getting there. DJ's playing, floor is packed. They're doing follow the leader, Filipino dances mixed with 2000s hip hop. Over here, tables of uncles and aunties, titos, titas, eating dinner with their families, small children sleeping on a table. You know it's a good party and the child is sleeping on a table.
Yeah.
But before I go, FaceTime Nilu. Like, yo, Nilu, you want to go to the club? She's clearly in pajamas. It's only 8:30 too, right? But that's an example of like, I try to, when you were talk about check-ins, it's like checking in through the process, checking in through the room. And it's like private, it's one-on-one, so they feel like, they can speak their mind in case they don't want to ruffle any feathers, they don't want to get called out. But then also beyond that, when I see the writers I've worked with in the real world, I want them to have a joy when they see me.
Yeah.
Right?
I agree. Actually, another thing that Marwin did at the beginning, I worked on Corner season 3, and when we started the room, she kind of talked about the environment of the room and how she wanted it to be. But she was also like, if you have a problem, you can come to me. If you have a problem with me, you can go to this person.
Yeah.
Like she really laid out the chain of command. And so you automatically feel like, wow.
There's power. You have power.
Yeah. Like you're not like, I have to sit here and be afraid of, you know what I mean? You could say, like, she's kind of holding herself accountable in this situation too. Because that is, to your earlier point, a thing that can really happen where it's like, you know, if you have a problem with the showrunner, you feel like you have nowhere to go because you're like, well, they're not going to fire the showrunner.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But yeah.
And one of the things we had Jason Belleville in episode 4, one of the things he said he does now is he sets meeting times like 2 weeks in advance. So that way people don't feel like, oh, am I in trouble? Like if you just kind of do like a little meeting off. Yeah. I was like, oh, that's good. Because I normally would be like, hey, I'm gonna chit chat with everybody. Like, you know, we'll just have a quick little convo or whatever, and just to check in with people. Or I'll just let them know, like, if you ever have a question, you can just like reach out to me or whatever. But like having that little like, we're gonna have 15 minutes in 2 weeks, and it also kind of gets your brain thinking like, is there anything that I do want to talk about like, while you're having? So that's another little tip.
That's smart.
What about when you have friction between writers that, like two other writers that, and I
easy. Put a knife in the middle of the room, draw a circle, say, deal with it, figure it out.
Whoever survives can stay on the show.
I don't know if I've truly had friction beyond like I don't love this idea.
Yeah.
I don't know. But you're so much more, you two are so much more seasoned than I am.
There have been times.
Have there been times?
Yeah, but you know, there have been times, and sometimes I don't find out about it until like a year or two later.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I was like, oh, I was not a fan of this person. I was like, oh, really? Like, but then sometimes you can just see in the room that there's like a little bit of friction between two writers. Have you? I mean, I have a way that I deal with it. What do you have any before I give you my terrible solution?
Oh,
you have a good solution?
No, I don't have a good solution, but to my knowledge, it has not happened in a room where I've been the showrunner. But I've seen it in rooms where I have not been the showrunner. I was just another writer in the room. And what I've seen the showrunner do is to like start with like private conversations with the individual writers, kind of try to find out what the situation is, what's going on, and then kind of like, I would say giving them the opportunity to come together, not to have like a mediated conversation, but rather like kind of here's where we're at and we need to work together, and kind of letting them kind of find their way through it. And I would say for myself, just, I think spending sometimes now, especially when you have rooms that are so often on Zoom, it becomes very much about work and less about that experience of being actually in a room together where everybody's getting to know each other and whatever. And so I think when people like know each other better, that can sometimes help some of the friction that is around, I feel like this person's always shutting me down, or I feel like it's kind of like a work conflict. And if we can kind of, so I remember on the Porter, we would have lunch together on Zoom once a week. Because normally you want to give everybody like the Zoom break, but we're like, we need to like talk and get to know each other and not just be only. So we're like, and then it would be like battle over the lunches, like who made a good lunch today, and it was never me. And
that sounds like personal hell to me. I love the idea of it.
Yeah.
Oh man, leave me alone and let me eat silently in peace with the camera off.
Well, you would get extra time. You would have a lunch on screen, good. And then you would get time after to just be on your own because especially that was like the first year of the pandemic, and it was just like everything was weird. I need to go cry. Okay, tell us your solution.
Well, I think when there's an issue, usually I try to have the little individual meetings if I notice it, and I'll preach empathy. Like I'll preach like the idea of like, well, the reason that person's like this is for a specific, like they might be this way because of these reasons or those reasons, and then try and get both sides to kind of be a little bit more empathetic to each other.
Yeah.
And then if I feel like there's willingness to figure it out, then I'll give them a little assignment together. I'll be like, hey, can you guys break this little thing together? Like, hey, can you two go work on this little thing? And just not like a full script or anything like that, but just like go figure out the story. Like I'll just try and get them that. I don't do that unless I feel like they can handle that.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's also like a real situation where it's like we're talking about being shut down in a room. Oftentimes, what I've seen is it's the misogyny, right? It's just like some man feels like doesn't want to hear women talk in a room, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, well we have to. there might need to be some actual like education here. There might need to be a situation where that person has to go and take a class, or just have. You might have to remove someone from the room if you feel like it's in a place where like if your room is toxic and nothing's getting done, like you have to deal with that toxicity because otherwise the work's going to suffer. And so I have been in places where I've had to remove people from a room because it's difficult, but it's also the other writers appreciate that you took care of a problem. Yeah. And then all of a sudden everyone's like, okay, I'm going to work harder for you now because I know that you've got my back. So there gonna be times when it's like it's both people have to work together, and there are gonna be times when it's like, okay, you're gonna have to nip something in the bud, and that's part of the managing people situation. Like I tell people, like a lot of the skills I picked up as a showrunner is from being a supervisor at Canada's Wonderland. Like that had nothing to do with writing, but it had a lot to do with managing people. I remember this one time, this girl, she called in sick, and then she came to the park. Like, what are you doing here? You're supposed to be checking people onto the vortex. Why are you riding the vortex?
Yeah. That's a bold move.
Did you fire her?
I couldn't fire her.
Oh.
I couldn't fire her. I had to give her a written warning. After I'd already given her like 3 verbal warnings. I had to give her a written warning. Listen, if you're out there and you're watching this, you know who you are. You know what you did.
Yeah. Paul Sun Young Lee. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, it was Paul Sun Young Lee.
It was Appa.
He also worked at Canada's Wonderland, which is the reference here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, did he?
He did. And so the side step again, I've been doing this ice rink thing in my backyard.
Yeah, yes.
And people keep messaging me like, get Paul to come over and Zamboni it because he's a licensed Zamboni or something. But yeah, Paul, like a lot of people on the street will be like, yeah, I work with Paul at Wonderland.
I wonder if we were there at the same time. I got to talk to him about that. But yeah, so I think like those are a couple of ways. But if you get to a place where you do have to let someone go, if this is like a real situation, it's important that you do that with the producers. You should have people with you. You shouldn't be the only person there because if it gets into like a situation where it's like one person said this, one person said that, you want to make sure you have yourself covered in all the right ways. So yeah, sometimes you have to have those difficult conversations.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's a difficult conversation that turns into a better situation for the room. So
I think just talking about Canada's Wonderland, this is an aside too that you can cut out later. But I do think that like all the other jobs I had, to your point, it's like being a showrunner is about being a manager, and all those other jobs that I had where I kind of worked with different people really, I think, has given me a lot of skills now. Like I was what they call a competitor coordinator on Top Chef. And so I had to work with the chefs, and I did it as like, there was a 3-person team. So first I was the number 2, and then I went back 2 years later and I was like the number 1. So I had my own little team to manage. But you also had to manage all the chefs. And so like kind of being in that environment, especially an environment like that where all the chefs were incredibly accomplished. So they're coming from a place where they're in charge to having to listen to you and being kind of in this competition that is carrying so much pressure and weight. It's like you really start to understand kind of like everything people are bringing into the own pressure that they're bringing into a situation and how that can kind of trickle into other areas. And so I think about that a lot. I felt like it taught me so much about working with different people, trying to find ways to connect with people, and kind of how much of it is like calming people down.
Yeah.
Like that's a huge part of the job.
Yeah.
You bring up a very good point. I thought about it on the way here. And because recently I got a message from a young writer. I've known her since she was like in high school, and she's like done university, and she wants to get into like, she's like, how do I get my foot in the door of like TV writing? And I was like, can I be honest with you? It's real tough right now. There's a very few doors. And they're locked pretty tight.
Yeah.
But I said one of the best things you could do right now is to actually pursue another career and keep the writing as like the thing you love and keep doing that. Because I think that like for me and a lot of people I've worked with before, and even in the interview process, when we're looking at writers, I'm always like, how did you get here?
Yeah.
What's the path that got you here?
What's your story?
You know, and I'm finding out I used to be a lawyer. I'm like, you used to be a lawyer?
Yeah.
You went to school for like 6 years to be a lawyer, and then one day you're like, fuck it, I'm out.
I want to write.
I want to write. But like, that to me is like, you have so much more lived experience. But like, I worked at the mall. You know, it's the same as Wonderland. I think people who work at the mall, or you were the shift manager at the mall, you have so much more insight in the world. And it doesn't really have to do with writing, but it has to do with the nuances of running a room and being with people.
Yeah.
Right?
And getting those experiences. Like you having that stuff to lean on when you're writing, having those characters that you meet, having those people, having those worlds that you live in that you can build into a script. Like you need all that stuff. I tell people all the time, when I got my job writing on The Office, I literally left a job working in an office to go work on The Office. Like I had to,
But were you working at the mall at one point too?
I worked at the mall. Yes, I worked at that happened after The Office.
Yeah, after The Office.
After The Office, I worked at Macy's.
Yeah, that's right. You were telling me that.
Yeah. After The Office, I was like, hey man, I got a job writing on The Office, and things dried up, and then I was like, well, I have a mortgage and I don't know when my next job is coming, and I'm going to go fold shirts at Macy's until I figure it out. And I also taught SAT prep at Kaplan. I was like, you know what?
Wow.
I'm going to teach people how to do math because I do have a minor in mathematics from Queen's University.
Wow.
Oh, yes, indeed. The plan initially was to become a math and drama teacher. I was going to be cool Mr. Farrell, who teaches math and also directs the school plays. That was
I could totally see that.
Yeah,
it's not too late.
No, you know what? One day I'll make my dreams come true. That's why I'm always wearing these cardigans.
But it's so nice for you to tell. I don't know how many people know that story, but it's, I think we all have those moments where, you've like done. I remember after I left the CFC, I was like, the thing about being at the CFC is just like you feel so much like the artist they have
Yes.
And I walked out of there like I will never do anything other than writing. I am a writer now, and this is how I'm going to, and then like a year later I was like applying, or it was like at the streetcar. I had just like come for this interview to be like an assistant or whatever because I just had no money. And I was like at the streetcar, like just sobbing, like, like what have I done and how did I end up here again?
Failure.
Whatever. And then I got another, I didn't get that job, in fact, and I got another job and then eventually got Private Eyes, which was kind of my first big job. But it's just nice for people to know, like, you have successes and then you have moments where you're like,
this going to come and go, especially in this gig economy, like where we're going to be you'll be in a room for a little bit and then you won't be, and then
but knows? Having relationships, just to bring it back to the topic.
Yes.
I mean, I do feel like even back then, like all the jobs I got were because of someone that I had worked with on something else or whatever. It's like so important to have good relationships.
Oh, relationships.
Yeah.
I'm the current winner of a CSA for Best Lead Performer in a Comedy Series. The current winner.
The current
one.
You are at the mountaintop for acting.
The highest acting honor in this country. And this year was one of the lightest years for acting, just because of the nature of the industry. And I acted twice this year. One for this man, on Hate the Player, pre-existing relationship. I basically texted you, be like, I want to do the show. Make room for
me in, coach.
Put me in. He's like, you're in.
Yeah.
And the other one was a movie Jonathan Langdon and I booked. My co-star on Run the Burbs. I get an email from my agent, and I was like, yeah, you got this movie. And I'm like, I didn't audition for this film. And they're like, yeah, but Larissa Mayer submitted a tape of you and Jonathan from Run the Burbs. Just straight up submitted a tape of you. And the director, Peter Fasinelli from Twilight and Can't Hardly Wait, said, I fucking love these guys, and cast us in the movie. So we showed up to set. He didn't know our names or anything yet. And we walked in. He's like, I fucking love these guys. But again, it was like a relationship with Larissa. And it's like relationships. Like, so for going back to what we're talking about here, the relationships with writers, relationships with casting directors, relationships with showrunners, other creatives, because this industry is so up and down, right? But it's just building relationships. And I do a ton of corporate emceeing. That's like a big chunk of my work right now. Again, that's all word of mouth, all relationships. So just be a good human and do good work when you whenever you get the opportunity,
Mm-hmm.
you'll level up.
This is a good segue to kind of talking about like working with actors and working with like, so as a, you know, a lot of times as writers, you're not necessarily on set.
Yep.
But if you're a director who goes into showrunning, or a producer who goes into showrunning, like you're gonna eventually have to work with actors. And some showrunners are like, hey, director, you take care of that. But I feel like your actors want to please you and want to make sure that they're bringing your vision to life. So I think it's important to have that direct relationship with actors if you're a showrunner. But every single actor is different. Like every single actor, and I tell people all the time, like it's one of those things where like a lot of us get into this business, a lot of us get into the arts because we're insecure about something. We kind of like, hey, can you see me in this way? Can you see me? Like there's a lot of like there's a lot of like stuff like that in our industry. So be empathetic, be treat people the way you want to be treated. But I think I think it's just one of those things, like when you're talking to actors, understand, like don't go at them like, well, you're pretending to be like this cool hip person. They're dealing with stuff on their own. So just make sure that you're connecting to them in a real empathetic way is what I would suggest. And I think you're going to get the best out of them.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have to deal with them, like giving notes, talking about character. There's a lot of different times you're going to have to connect with many. You as someone who is like, especially you're acting more than writing these, well, not this year, but
yeah.
But like
this year was a wild year. I did everything this year.
Yeah.
The multi-hyphen was massive.
When you were on shows, when you're like how do you feel like what worked best for you with as an actor when you were working with writers and showrunners?
Alicia Young, who was the consulting director on Run the Burbs all 3 seasons and an excellent director. I remember she came up to me, and Peter Wellington as well. Peter Wellington, I'm sure you work with Peter Wellington.
I haven't.
You haven't?
No.
You ever worked with Peter Wellington?
No.
I know, but he does every
show.
Yeah. He's everywhere.
But working with those 2 directors early on in my career, because Kim's Convenience was my first TV show. Like I had done Young Drunk Punk, like a little 1 episode thing.
Yeah.
And then I was in Alberta. I was always going out for like railway workers roles, because that's all we were shooting in Alberta was like westerns, and the only time I'm there is railway workers. And I remember one time I was like to my agent, I'm like, I thought I crushed that audition, like why didn't I get it? And her feedback was, yeah, the producer says you look too nourished to be a railway worker. And I'm like, oh no.
Too
that is
nourished.
Yeah, too nourished. And I'm like, oh boy. Okay. Anyways, back to Peter Wellington and Alicia. I hadn't really worked with directors before, TV directors.
Yeah.
And what I really appreciated about those 2 is when they chatted with me and gave me notes and feedback, it wasn't like I'm telling you to do this.
Mm-hmm.
It was a bit more of a collaboration of like, well, how are you feeling here?
Yeah.
Like what does Kimchi want out of this? Why is he doing this? Why is he doing? One of my favorites, Peter, was like, we were doing a scene where Kimchi was mad at Jung for some reason. And he's like, why is Kimchi doing this? And then I just was like, well, because Kimchi's right. And Peter's like, yeah, Kimchi's right. Kimchi's the smartest man in the world, and they're all idiots for not seeing it. And I'm like, that's right. I'm always right. He's a dumbass. He doesn't get it. And then from that point forward, whenever we did scenes, I always approach it of like, you don't see it the way I see it? What's wrong with you?
Mm-hmm.
But it informs so much of the character.
That's so interesting. I have to say, it's like so interesting to listen to you, because I feel like you're like, as a writer, you've written something. So it's like the director being like, what is Kimchi want? And you're like the writer being like, I know what he wants because I wrote the script and I actually had some thoughts there also. So I think that's really like, I think as a writer, as a show, it's like so interesting what you're saying, because I think it's true. Like when you're the director and the actor, and that relationship is very different than being a writer, because I think our instinct is to be like, well, I had an exact idea of what I wanted this thing to be. And you really have to let go of that. Like, it isn't now, it was like a thing on a piece of paper that you wrote that was in your head. And now it's a thing that's happening in front of you with real people. And so it's more about telling, I think, like letting the actor know your intention, maybe what where you think the character is at this moment. Like, this is where the place that kimchi is at in this moment, or this is, kind of what my thought is, and to have it feel more like you want the actor to play something that feels real to them.
Yeah.
In the same way, like as a writer, you don't want someone to say, just write this. No, it's like I have to write something that feels like that is integral and part of the story and like comes out of me. And that's how the actor needs to work also. So you're trying to give, I think, them context of like where you're at, but to let the actor and the director like bring something to it together, and to not come and be like, this is exactly what I wanted, and you're not doing the thing that is exactly what I wanted. Or at least that's not how I approach it as a show. I know some showrunners are much more strict, like say exactly
has to be this way, has to be
what
that
I
way.
wrote or whatever. But I think it's more, I don't know, sometimes you write something.
Extension of the collaboration.
Yeah, and you write something and then you see it and you're like, oh, I don't like it as much.
Well, much like how you just described, like when from the writing side, we're constantly discovering things about the characters, scripts, and scenes.
Mm-hmm.
So you've done a whole process to discover it. The room, we've done that room. You've done your hours away sitting in the dark writing to discover it. It's replicating that for the performer now.
Yeah.
Because the performer's getting this script and they're like, do this.
Yeah.
If you were given a script as a writer, like, write this, you can't.
Yeah.
But as a performer, when we replicate the process of discovering why this wording or this scene exists, then it's like elevated. Yeah. Right? And then unintentionally, we're both the writer and the performer and the director have all discovered something together now. Yeah. Because it might go to another place.
Totally.
Right?
It's like that moment that you capture on screen is a culmination of all those relationships and all those moments. Yeah. And the thing with the director and the actor, it's interesting because that is it's a little micro moment because it's about that one scene. And as a showrunner, a lot of times I'll talk to actors at the beginning of the process because, especially for TV, a lot of times you have directors who are there for 1 episode or 2 episodes. Yeah. But as a showrunner, you might be like, oh, this scene is important because 4 episodes from now, you haven't read the script yet, but 4 episodes from now, this comes back in a moment. So being able to share that information, give as much information as possible to the actors, because you don't want them, some showrunners want to keep all that stuff to themselves and just like, just do the thing that you need to do right now. And I just feel like that's not going to get you what you want ever. Like, I think sharing as much information as you have and then letting that person build the character, build their world based on the information you give them. Because don't forget, when you write it into the script, it's 2 dimensions. It's just just on a piece. When you lift it and it becomes 3 dimensions, you want it to become uplifted. You don't want it to become flatter than what's on the page. You want it to be even better than what's on the page. And the only way to do that is to share the space.
And I would say, as a showrunner, my opinion about it is that, I'm always available to the actors if they want to talk to me about the characters and the scenes or whatever it may be. But I personally do try to let the director and actor kind of have the relationship on set. I might be there. Yeah. But it is like, I do think it's important that you're not like I think it's not for you to be the only person who has all the answers and then you're sidelining everybody else from contributing to the collaborative process. And the director is bringing something and so is the actor. So it's like, I'm there. I think just in the way that television has worked out now, often the showrunner is there kind of the whole time. Not all of them, but some of them.
The showrunner is still the source. You still need the source.
Yes, and we are the keeper of all this information, where it's going. Also, you maybe have a note, and it's like, actually, the reason why this is like this is because the network wanted this thing, so it's really not up for, we're just going to do whatever we want now. You are the keeper of a lot of information, and I think sharing that information is really important. But I do personally like to try and like on set, like still let the director kind of do their thing and be there as a resource for the director, for the actor, with all the knowledge about the show that I have without being too, I'm trying to like tell you how to act, tell you how to direct, and do the whole thing.
I think it's so important that a showrunner lets directors direct because you've brought them into and you will have had so many conversations with your director, the tone meetings, all the concept meetings, all those things. Like, you have imparted all what you want. The script is there for them. Like, there's so many different things you talked about. I think it's important for the showrunner or for someone who represents the writers to be on set, totally, to make sure things are going in the direction that it needs to be going. But at the same time, like, for me, what I'll do with my directors is I will this is what I'll do. Like, I'll give them 2 takes before I jump in. If we have time, I'll give them like
Yeah.
the first take is what it is. I'll let the director kind of like make their adjustments after the second take. Then usually what happens is after the second take, the director has the same thoughts I had,
Yeah.
and the director's going to give the notes that kind of move them in the same direction, especially if we've had good conversations and we both
Yeah.
know what we want to do with this episode. And then after the second take, if there's stuff, then I'll go to the director and be like, hey, I feel like I'm missing this or I'm missing that. Like, can we... And the funny thing is, a lot of times I'll have a really good relationship with our actors because obviously I'm there for the whole season and the directors aren't always. So sometimes the actors will come to me and I'll try and make sure that I let the actors know, like, I want the director to be, this is their set. It's my show, their set. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? So it's still like, I want them to kind of like have ownership over the moment, right? So I'll give the director those notes and then let the director kind of, and if I feel like I'm still in a place where I'm not getting what I need, I would just suggest get the thing you need because you can't come back. Like I've been in those places where in the edit, you didn't say something because you felt like, oh, maybe I was talking too much.
Totally.
Maybe I was in the way too much. I'm just going to leave it alone. And then I get to the end and I was like, oh, I should have said something.
Those are the ones you regret.
Oh, I should have said
It's like the
something.
things you regret are the things where you felt like, oh, something's not right, but you didn't want to say anything for like, oh, we're running out of time. It's going to, whatever. And then you get in the edit and you're like, I knew I was going to be in this exact moment. Whereas I think other things, I don't know, you're just like, like things that don't work out that I thought, I was like, oh, that really worked on the day. Doesn't look good now, but it's just kind of what we were in the moment. We were happy. We were like loving it. I don't know. I think it is just I think that's an excellent point and a thing that you learn on set in terms of like giving people a chance before you're jumping in, like if the director couple give the actor a chance to find their way, to not always be like, first take, be like, you know what, it's not right. Like it might get, or it might get somewhere you didn't expect that is also good.
But at the very end, if you're not getting it, you just take the reins.
Yeah.
There was one shot in season 2 of Burbs, and I remember we were getting like, because everyone needs to like, they gotta light the shot, they gotta do it, and like, but I'm a good person. Like I used to go around with a camera and just shoot sketches, right?
Yeah.
So we were done for the day, but I knew it was gonna make the cut, and I said to the camera person, I said, Sarah, point a camera right here. Michelle, focus this. Ali, shake my hand. And we did this. We gave each other props 3 times.
Yeah.
Not lit, nothing. And it made the final cut. And I'm like, we needed that cut.
Yeah.
And it was that moment where like sometimes as the showrunner, in this situation, I'm a showrunner, star, but you just take, you got to fight for what you want.
Yeah.
But everyone trusted it.
Yeah.
Everyone trusted it at that moment. They were like, Andrew wants this shot. We're going to fight for it, right?
And I think it's one of those things that's like, there are times where you have to know what the situation is. Like, the end of the day, you've got 5 minutes, you're about to go into OT. Like, I'm not waiting for 2 takes before I give my notes, because if we only have so much, I'm like, here's what I need before we even start. Here's what I need from this scene. We only have a few minutes. We're only going to get 1 or 2 takes. Let's have the conversation while everyone's setting up, and then I'll get that information out at the top. And this is exactly what you're talking about. Like, just like, okay, we need this. Hey, everybody, we're all happy and everyone's good and everyone's taking care of each other. But then at this moment, we just need to move and make this happen so that we can. And then there's going to be times when you just gotta take the reins.
You gotta take the reins, and it is the like, there's like, I think what I've realized in this conversation is that with show running and producing, you have to have multiple gears.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's times and places to do certain things, right? Like you're saying as a showrunner, you let the director direct. And I loved working with Ins Choi because he always let the director direct. But there were times where he'd come whisper secrets to me.
Yeah.
And only to me.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't tell the director, and it would affect me. One of my favorites.
That is such a theater thing, by the way.
That's a what?
It's such a theater thing.
Yeah,
You can tell Ins came from theater.
Oh, yeah.
That is such a theater thing.
Secrets? Yeah.
Oh my God. Absolutely.
Yeah. So he came, I was shooting a scene with Paul. It's from season 1, and it's a scene with Kimchi and Appa at the toilet. And it is one of my favorite scenes. But Ins came to me and said, Kimchi doesn't have a dad. And he sees Appa as his dad. And so I played every scene with Paul going forward in the entire series as a kid who lost his dad at a young age.
Oh, wow.
And just loved this man and couldn't understand why his best friend was always screwing it up with his dad. Right? And I tell fans that sometimes. I'm like, go back and watch all my scenes with Paul. And they really brought it through to season 5. There's moments with Kimchi and Appa. Like, Kimchi looks at Appa this way, but it's like from that one secret, right?
It's great.
Yeah.
Oh man, I love that.
Yeah.
And it is like I a lot of theater I do, like you just like when you're directing theater, you're just like, oh, little secret here to this person, little secret here, and then you see what happens when they get into with each other.
It goes back to like, sharing the ideas. Like I loved it when I would meet with Inns and Kevin, and they would just like share with me the season. Yeah. That was so helpful because in season 1 they didn't do that. But that was a product of, we were a new show. Yeah. They didn't really know how the characters were going to shape out. And so, but for season 2 and onward, they met with us, and we tried to do that on Burbs. Yeah. We met with the actors before the writing room, and then after the writing room, be like, here's what we got for the season for you to look forward to, but here's how we wrote your arc for you to kind of, when you read the scripts, when you start prepping, to start kind of getting in that headspace. More information is better. Yeah.
And I think one of the things too, especially these days when representation is such an important part of everything, you don't always have all the people you need in a writer's room that represents every single character. And so a lot of times when if you cast authentically and you cast the right way, you can use that actor as another resource for that character. And I've done that plenty of times where just because your script says shooting draft doesn't mean you're done. Like there are going to be, and I invite those performers to be like, hey, like we did on Shelved, there were 2 Tibetan actors that, we didn't have any Tibetan writers in the room, but we did our research. We were trying to be as authentic as possible. And then when we cast the people, we said, hey, let's have a conversation about these characters. Is there anything you feel like we can adjust or we can tweak? And those conversations led to like some new dialogue, a little bit more backstory, and it helped the characters in so many ways, and also made the actors feel so much more ownership over the characters.
Empowered by it.
They were empowered. They brought so much more life to the performance because they weren't just playing something that someone told them to go do, but they were playing something that they had a hand in creating. Yeah. So I think that's also a good thing with like actors, like finding ways to give them some kind of like ownership over the character that they're playing. I think it will pay dividends.
Yeah.
Well, especially for your actors that are coming in for one day or one scene. And I love doing this when we would bring in a performer for one scene, one role. I would always reference their audition tape, because I watched every audition tape. And they're like, you watched the tape? And I'm like, yeah, of course I watched the tape.
How do you think you got here?
Yeah, but just like referencing that, it like makes them feel like, oh, you want me here. Yeah. You want me in this space. And then asking them questions about the character. What did you have in mind? And that builds such a bond, right? And so we're talking about relationships. You treat everyone like they're a collaborator in this process, right? One of my favorites was the realtor in season 2 of Run the Burbs. She did 2 takes, where one take was like a straight up realtor, like by the book, and one take she was a bit horny for Ali Hassan, like a bit, and I was like, none of the lines change. Yeah. But the intent changes. Yeah. And when she came to set, I remember we telling her, like, we kind of like your horny take. And she's like, really? We're like, it's really funny that she is so into this man, but it fit the world, it fit the character. That's the take we kept. But she, like, afterwards, she posted on Instagram after. She's like, I just felt like I was a part of this show. Yeah. One scene, one day, but I felt like I was a part of it.
It's great.
Yeah.
That's all you want. Like, you just want, because then you get the best out of people.
Yeah. Then they go above and beyond. Yeah. Then they're so much more willing to take notes as well. Yeah. Like if they're notes they're getting, if we're tight on time, they're like, yeah, I want to make this happen. I want to make this special, right? Yeah. You're including them in everything. And I always try to do every department head, if they had ideas, and whenever I could sit on Zooms with the department heads, I'd always ask, like, what did you have in mind? Like, what do you want out of this? Yeah. What are you thinking? What do you want to, So that's special. That's fun.
The creative collaboration is so key. I want to get back into the conversation about working with directors, though. Yeah, because it is especially as showrunners, you're going to be working sometimes with one director if they're directing the whole season or whatever. But sometimes you're working with a lot of different directors, and they're all going to be different. They're going to have different styles. Some directors are better with performers. Some directors are better with equipment. Like they just know cinematography really, really well, and it just kind of depends on their path to directing. I'm just curious. For you, Marsha, you worked even like with The Porter, you had 2 directors. You had RT and Charles.
Yeah. And RT and Charles were also EPs,
Right.
so we really were kind of like, notwithstanding the relationships I just had with them personally, they were kind of there from the beginning and through the whole process. Right. So that is so different than when you have a director that's just coming in for a block,
right,
or whatever. It's like quite a different, I think, relationship. That's
like, because even like I just with Hate the Player, RT was one of the directors as well. So
Mm-hmm.
it's RT and Corey Bolts, and then again, it was like I wanted them to be producers in the project, and we were just like a part of all the conversations together, and that's a different, like, those situations, they're great, but you're still the showrunner. You're still the person who's going to have to be, making those decisions at the end of the day about, like, what I tell people, like, as a showrunner, you're going to get a lot of input from everywhere, but your job is the output. You have to decide what the output is. And so I'm curious how, for you, like, when you're dealing with something where there's a lot of power in the directing, how do you maintain that? I guess how do you maintain like what you want to get out of the show?
Yeah, it's such a different experience when you have like a producing director, because it isn't just like, oh, this is yours. You're really kind of, that person is there to also shape the look and the feel of it, which is also shaping the story and the tone of the piece. And so for me, it's like, I really approach every situation thinking about the collaboration. I think partially because I remember this is a bit of a segue, sorry, but like, I remember at one point working on a show, and when I was working on Mary Kills People, and it was like directors who weren't excited.
Yeah.
Versus directors who came in who were excited, who were like, oh my God, I watched the show. I love it. I love what Holly's done. This is my idea of how to like build on that. As opposed to people who would come in who are very good directors, but it was just another day at
just
work.
Come in, they're just like, it's just.
And it's like, and I'm never on any show being like, just another episode of television. No, I'm like, I care deeply about the thing I am writing, about the characters. Yeah, like I really am like giving it my all. And so I want the directors in both cases to come in with that energy. And I think in order to cultivate that energy, you have to let people in. Like otherwise you're treating them like you're just here to do another day on the job and this is my thing. But if they're also so I'm like, I think what I think about most of all in terms of the relationship is the things that feel very, very important to you are probably, if you can like let go of the reins a little bit, there's probably not as many of those things as you think there are when you start. And that people have other ideas that when you're like, you know what? Yeah, let's try that. Let's do that. Like there are obviously things that are going to be that you need to have for your show, but it's like a thing that's like, it's good when you have a show and you kind of really have almost like you have like a manifesto, like the show is these things. And you know when ideas are taking you away from that. And when ideas are just like not an idea that you had, and that doesn't make it bad. You know what I mean? And so definitely there were times when we were doing The Porter, we were working with Charles and RT, where, they would want things that were not like as we had imagined them. But then it's like, okay, well, what if we tried to imagine them this new way? Yeah. Like, what might that be? And sometimes it's, even if it's not better, it's just different than what you had. And that doesn't make it worse, you know? And then there were times when we were like, desperately like, no, it must be this thing. Like you cannot change this. This is changing the whole thing. But I don't know if RT would remember this, but there was a time in post where we were doing this episode together and he wanted this thing that I really didn't want. I was like, I don't like this at all. And then I was like, okay, if you give up this thing, then I'll let you have this other thing in this other episode. Is real. That so I'm like, yeah, that's it. You know what? And then it's like, we both got a little something, lost a little something. We were in it together. Yeah. And that's it. It is, we have said collaboration so many times, but it's also compromise sometimes. You can't always, I think, before you're a showrunner, you might have this idea, you're going to go and now I'm going to get everything I want. Yeah. And it's going to be everything I ever. it's not really like
because
that.
No, it's not.
No.
Oh,
It's not like
let me
that.
tell you about network notes.
We're gonna get to network in a second. We're gonna get to network in a second. But this thing with especially with directors who are a big part of the process. Like I same way. I feel like they've hired me for a reason. I'm a showrunner for a reason. Like there are certain things I just know I want, but I also want people to feel good about the thing that they're working on. So there are times where I'm like, you know what? I would probably do it the other way, but let's roll with your idea here because I want to make sure like, you're getting something out of this as well, something creative out of this. And the things that I really feel passionate, like, no, it has to be this way, then I'll step in and be like, no, this is what it has to be. And there are times when it's like, there are people who are like, well, I don't find that funny. And I'm like, well, I do, and I'm the person that's been hired to decide what goes into the show. And so I will trust my instincts over yours in this case because that's what I've been hired to do, right? So there are times when you gotta be the showrunner. But there are times when you're like, you know what, you're like, if it's something that you're kind of like, I don't know, but you know what, let's go with what you're gonna build a lot of bridges that way, and you're gonna have great relationships, and then you're gonna have people that want to keep working with you because you want great people to keep working with you.
I think I would say in terms of approaching it, in terms of going into production, it's like when your director is a producing director, they've really been there the whole time. So it feels more like, we're building something together, and you got to like let that feedback in and let everybody be a part of it in all of these different ways. And when you have a director who comes in to do a block, I would say the feeling is a little bit more of trying to impart everything to this person about what has happened before they got there, what the show is and whatever, so that when they get to set, they're more prepared. Whereas with the producing director, you're going to work with them the whole time, from the very beginning up until post. So it's not like they're just coming and do one thing, and then if it doesn't work out, you're never going to see them again. You have to work with this person.
We'll be there.
It's a relationship that's going to go on, and so you need to find a way to make it work. And get, I mean, the best part is when, as you know, if we've worked with another showrunner, you have to get on the same page about what the show is. And that's what I would say is like what you're trying to do when you have a producing director, a little bit more than when you just have an episodic director.
Yeah, and working with episodic directors, it's a little bit different. But one of the things I try and do, like I have this thing where I learned from Greg Daniels once did this in the writer's room. He was basically like, he was explaining jumping the shark, and he drew this circle on the whiteboard. He was like, every episode, whether it's like the first episode of the 5th season or it's whatever season you're in, every episode starts as a circle. This is what the show is up until this point. That circle, by the end of this episode, can grow 5%. If it grows too much more than that, then you've jumped the shark. And I've always been like, oh, that's a cool way of thinking about it. Like you can grow each episode, and then what happens is the circle's a little bit bigger in the next episode. So now what that show is a little bit bigger. Every single episode, you grow it a little bit more. And so what I tell directors, especially episodic directors who are just coming in to like direct 1 or 2 episodes, I'm like, find your 5%. Figure out what your 5% is. You're not going to be able to do, especially when you get film directors who come in and like, I'm going to make every shot the most beautiful. It's going to, I know. And you're like, listen, no, we got our schedule. We got to get this stuff done. We got to make our days. You're going to end up doing a bunch of stuff that you feel like it just feels like kind of plain or like just kind of boring. Find the 5%, like find the thing that you really want to key in and focus on, like a few scenes or whatever it is. Make those things like your little stamp or your little calling card. And then you've kind of built something new for the next director that comes in to kind of like build off of, which is great. And I think, but if you get a director that comes in there and is like, all right, we're making heat. And I'm like, no, this is
a kid show.
It's a kid show.
It is tough. I mean, it's really, I was just trying to think of like more of an experience where it's like a director that was more difficult to work. Because sometimes I think I think that sometimes directors don't love having writers or showrunners there because when you're stepping in, it feels, I don't know.
Like a parent's come in and tell you, like, here comes.
And it's like, let me tell you, I'm like, I cannot tell you how much I don't want to have to step in. Like my dream scenario is I'm just chilling literally the whole day and it's happening. And like someone comes to me if they need me to, you want me to rewrite a line or something like that? Sure. But like I'm really, so it's like if I've stepped in, it's truly only because I feel like I must.
Yeah.
I really try not to step in. But also it's like, I just recently, I worked with this director and he was kind of more of a technical director and really, and I was like, this is what he has his eye on. He's looking at all of these other things that I do not have an eye on.
Yeah.
But I have an eye on the story. And so now it's like we're doing this together in an amazing way. Like he has an eye on something that I would never be able to pick out.
Right.
And then I have my eye on these little story things that maybe is not where his focus is right now. And if you can really look at it like we're here together to make sure at the end of the day, you got the beautiful picture that you wanted and the story wasn't compromised and vice versa.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm really fortunate. Like on Run the Burbs, we had like really consistent directors.
Yeah.
But I think it's our interview process was so we vetted out the directors. Like, so when they got to set or they got to prep, like they were on board with the vision of what the show was, and then their 5% was something we were cool with.
Yeah.
Right? Like it was like, yeah, we're excited about this 5%. And you wrote an episode that was done in real time.
Yeah.
And Pat killed that episode. Like that is, I watched that recently and I was like, I still feel the anxiety seeing this episode. But it's like, I think we vetted our directors really well from the get-go. And so there weren't any surprises. There were no like, where did this come from? Right.
Yeah.
Do you have a process of vetting them before? Like, do you were there
asking a lot of questions?
Yeah.
Just asking a lot of, and not letting reputation be everything. Right? Because you're like, oh, this person has done this show, and I'm like, all right, but they didn't do our show.
Yeah.
Like this person's done this, and this, and it happened where this was not for a director, this was for an AD, but because the SAG strike was happening during one of the seasons of the show, we had access to some top tier ADs who never do a Canadian show because they're always on the American show with a big budget.
Umbrella
So
Academy,
we got access to ADs, and I'm like, whoa. And we met with a few of them.
Yeah.
And they were like smart people. But for me, I just felt like when I asked questions, they were set in another system. And they weren't going to be on the Canadian side where it's very scrappy. It's very do things yourself, tight days.
Yeah.
We don't got the budgets. And so my case was, I'm like, I'd rather go for someone with less experience, but they are aware of what we're trying to do and they've been a part of it, than someone who has a ton of experience, but might not jive with what we're doing.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like having people who want to be there is so important because it's a hard job.
Want to be there, understand what we're trying to do.
Yeah. Understand the limitations of what we have.
But then have a vision for what they want to add or bring to the project.
Yeah.
And so I'm really proud that from our season 2 and 3 directors were the exact same. We're the same exact 5 directors.
Yeah.
Loved it. Loved them, right? But I know like on Kim's Convenience, like there was a lot of directors in those early seasons that kind of came on board and like didn't stick around past that season. And then we found the groove of who was going to be the fit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's like from the get-go, from the dating, from the get to know you. Just like make sure that we're on the same page with it.
And there are we're going to get into network stuff now, but leading into that, like there are going to be times when you want certain directors, but there's an approval process, and there's, the broadcasters who are giving you the money, they get to approve, whether or not you get directors. And you might be like, oh, this person just shot the funniest commercial I've ever seen in my life. And they're like, well, have they done an hour long yet? No, but I trust them. They're going to be fine. They're like, you're probably not going to get that person approved.
And it's not even network. It's also other producers.
Yeah.
Because on season 1, we wanted a DP to do it.
Okay.
And the producer, one of our producers was like, no, I don't trust this person's ability to carry it, carry the workload of a show, all those things. It happened twice. 2 people were vetoed. One of them that season went to go do Son of a Critch. And
like,
then,
wait a minute.
and then the other one is very busy and did your show, Shelved.
Oh.
And it was like,
oh man, and I've worked with both of those people you're talking about, and they were both fantastic.
both fantastic.
And I can tell you, having also done Run the Burbs, they would have been fine.
They would have been fine.
Yeah.
Because we weren't shooting Heat or Casino.
Yeah.
We're shooting a sitcom set in the suburbs.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there, as we discussed network notes, it's like notes from everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one regret where I wish, this is the first season of a show I was producing, and I just wish I fought back harder on it.
Yeah. Well, let's jump into conversations about non-writing EPs before we get to network.
Okay. Yeah.
Whoa. I think it's important though, because I think especially for showrunners, you're going to need to know how to navigate these waters. I personally believe non-writing EPs, they come from a couple different. They're cut from a couple different cloths. There's a cloth where it's like they wanted to be the showrunner, they never had the artistic abilities to become a writer, and they feel like they are the creative producer, and they want to be the showrunner, but they're not. They just don't have the skills to do it, and so they're gonna. These are the people that are gonna be up in your grill the entire time, and I'll give you some ways to handle that.
I thought you were going to say, I'll give you some names.
Do some names.
I was like, great.
I absolutely will give you names, but not here.
But you said it before. I've been in meetings where you're like, man, if they want a show run, they do it. They don't got the creative ability to do it.
It's true. I have said that to people. I'm like, listen, if you want a show run, you can come do it.
Yeah.
And if not, then let me do my job.
Yeah.
which is just real. But then there are EPs that are legitimately like, listen, I want to work with the creatives and give them as much stuff as possible so that they can do the job that I know that they're going to do. There are people who trust, and then there's people who trust you. And so I think you're going to get, those are the two extremes. There's the people that think that they want to do your job for you. Well, they want you to do the job the way that they want it done.
Mm-hmm.
And there are people who are like going to be super supportive, and then there's all these non-writing EPs that are in between that are kind of like go back and forth. But I think I'm not going to throw either of you onto this grenade quite yet. I'm going to start. So I think when you're working with those EPs, which I have, where they're the ones who feel like they're the showrunners and they're going to be doing all those things, I think it's important to have the conversation at the beginning of the process, not at the end of the process. So if you are lucky enough to be running a show, at the beginning of the process, I would tell you, have a conversation where you say, listen, there are going to be times later on where we're going to disagree about certain things. If it's a creative decision, I consider myself the tiebreaker because I'm responsible for the creative output of the show. If it's a budget decision or if it's like a personnel decision, I'm going to trust the line producer. I'm going to trust the EP, the broad. Like those are things that I'm going to have to acquiesce on because I don't control those things. But if it's a creative thing, I consider myself the tiebreaker. So when I get to those situations, and I always get to those situations, regardless of how kind or how terrible the non-writing EP is, I can say to them, remember that conversation we had at the beginning of the process? Mm-hmm. I'm tie-breaking right now, and this is what I want to happen. So that is from experience where I for many years I didn't have that conversation at the jump, and then it would lead to like hand-wringing and just like arguments and like, well, I want it like this, and well, why does it mean like, and just. But now now that I've had those conversations, it's so much easier for me to be like, hey, remember the thing? I promise you.
What is their reaction to the conversation early in
Their
when
reaction,
you say it? What do they say?
The reaction is always this: of course.
Of course.
Oh my, we want you. This is your show.
Yeah.
This is why I always do it early, because at that moment they're always like, of course, like,
totally. Right.
You're the showrunner. If you created the show, you're the creator. Like, we want you to have. You want me to.
But then you have
make
the receipt so that you can.
Then I have
back.
the receipt so that later on I can be like, remember we talked. You said this was my show and this is what you want.
Mm-hmm.
You brought me in because at the beginning of the process, everyone's excited about the green lights. They're going to tell you all the things that you want to hear, and then I'm happy to hear all those things because I will bring that ish back to you when it's time. So that's for me the best way I've learned how to handle it, because other ways have happened for me, and it's led to things where I've been like, I kind of want to take my name off this show, or I want to,
Yeah.
I feel like I want to leave. Like, just those kinds of things where you start working on a show where you're like, oh, I'm working on their show, not my show now. And I don't know how. I want to pull a ripcord and just get the hell out of it. And that's not a place I ever want to, anyone to be, especially when you're working on something that has your name on it. It's just a not fun place. So I try to make sure I have those conversations early.
Nice.
Yeah. Any, we can just say a bunch of names now. No.
I know.
No.
I've not had that conversation, but I think you're right that, yeah, I guess the thing is like, I think it's an important question to have. I guess what I would say is that, and I know we say this, and it's like not in a Pollyanna way, but having worked in environments where I've had a more contentious relationship with the non-writing EPs, it really actually taught me how important it is to not have that situation. Like there's no, if you feel like it's like, well, I'm this and they're that and whatever, like there's no good outcome. Like that's what I'm saying. Like, and so what you're doing, what I think you're saying, what you're doing, it's like you're trying to say, here is the place where I need to have power. And here is also a place where you have power.
Absolutely.
Because what happens is when you get down to that moment, it becomes just this power grab. And I think when I was saying like, when you have this idea of being the showrunner and then you're going to get to do everything and everything's going to be, and it's not like that, but it's also like you have to not let it be like that also in order, again, to have some wins. You know how you're saying, like, if you create this environment where people like you, respect you, and whatever, then they're going to be like, you know what, Andrew let's do this, Like, you're more likely to be able to be like, for someone to say, okay, I'm going to essentially, like, let you have this one later when you've let them have some too. You can't spend the beginning to end saying no to everything. Like, you just actually have to be like, okay, you know more about this, or I'm going to let you take the lead a little here so that you get to the place where you're like, I know that nobody likes this but me.
Yeah.
But I like it. Yeah. And that's what we're going to do. Like, I have been there too and been like, I get it. And I'm not even saying anybody's wrong. I'm just saying I like it.
Yeah.
And so I would like to do it anyways, Anyways.
Wow. I've had good relationships with non-writing EPs.
Yeah.
And mainly their role is to give notes.
Yeah.
And I have been frustrated by their notes, very frustrated. But I try to always remember they're giving me perspective I no longer have.
Yeah.
Like when you're in something, I reference In's Troy a lot, but In's in season 1 of Kim's, everyone was trying to get him to play a role in the show. They wanted him to play Pastor Choi, and he's like, I don't want to do it. And then they did a whole makeup test on him to play the role, and he didn't want to do it. He didn't do it. And I asked him, why don't you want to play the role? And he's like, because once I go into the world, I've lost the perspective. Once I go into the world, I can no longer protect you. And I was like, oh, that was really interesting. So for me, I look at the non-writing EPs for the role they bring. What do they bring? They bring perspective that they're not in the world. They're not writing in the world. They're not creating in the world. So they see the world as we present it. So even though the notes frustrate me and I disagree, I always try to be like, what? And much like a writer's room, what is the nugget? What is that note? Where is it coming from? And if I disagree with it, how do I make it more clear what I want out of the thing they're disagreeing with? Or how do I make it more digestible?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so it is a bit of like, kill it with kindness. What's the other side of it? What are they doing? And I will say, for the most part, it's been very helpful.
Yeah.
Like we would get notes and I'd be like, what is this note? And I would sit there and it would bug me, and it bugs you for hours, bugs you for days.
Yeah.
Like in the worst, like sometimes I'll drive and I'll be like, fuck. Like I'm just angry of that note still. But then you try to be like, what is it about this note? And I do think that for the most part, I was able to address it.
Listen, I think it's important to embrace notes. I think they absolutely do. I think we talked about this in the podcast already, which is one of those things where it's like, if a note makes the show more of what you want it to be, easy, great. If a note makes the show less of what you want it to be, then it's about, okay, am I not being clear?
Yeah.
how do I make this more clear so you understand what I want out of these scenes? But then also there's like it gets to a place where it's like, this is just a preference. And if it's just a preference, I'm going to go with my preference over your preference. That's just
I feel like that's what people sometimes don't seem to understand. That it's just a preference. It's just taste.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? There isn't one. And so when I'm like saying no, it's not like I'm saying like, oh, your thing is wrong. Mm-hmm. No, it's just like, my taste, I prefer it this way.
Yeah.
And that could also be a good way. It's just not the way that I want to do it. And so sometimes when you're kind of thinking about notes, you do think about, that's why I'm like, sometimes I'm like, okay, well, yeah, it's like maybe not how I would have done it, but okay, I don't think like, whatever. But also you don't want to just be like, is it, there's that like famous, it's like, is it making it better or just making it different,
Yeah.
And sometimes, and you're always kind of looking at that line. Like I really try to do as many of the notes as I can.
Yeah.
And I do the same thing where I'm like, I had like, someone asked me to get rid of a character, I think, recently. And I said, I feel like this character is really important.
Yeah, Mary's very
important. I was like, I feel like Mary needs to be in the show.
Yeah, who's gonna kill
so I was like, let me take another run at it. And if you still feel this way after the next pass, then we'll we'll have the conversation again. But I think, like really trying to, what you're saying, it's like trying to respect that they're your first audience. And if you feel like the notes are really coming from a good audience place and not a what we think people want place or a money, like, those other things. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to try and take this in. But I think you're right. Like, I think as showrunners, what we should and need to do is to help other people understand what that job is, and that job is, to your point, it's like it is your job to have the creative vision. And that means it's not like a thing you're trying to make a thing that everybody's going to like. It's like what they're buying into is your vision of this show. And it isn't going to be a thing that everybody likes, in fact. But that's not what we're here for. Nothing ever is.
Yeah.
So, and I think we really, I think sometimes that can, because not everybody kind of understands the showrunner role. Mm-hmm. That can like not be clear, but that at the end of the day, this is art. People are not going to feel the same way about it. And so when it comes down to your point, this decision that's really just about taste and preference and vision, that it is yours to make.
Yeah. I think, and this goes to another relationship that I think is important, which is like having like a number two writer or a script. It's another writer that I always try and make sure that I have another writer or someone there at the end of the process, because usually it's just the showrunner who's working with the other producers or the other people in post. And sometimes you get something, you're like, am I crazy for thinking this is crazy? And then if you have someone to look at and who's been there with you through the whole process, they can be like, no, that's crazy. And you can be like, okay, good. I thought I was the one that was going off the rails here. I was like, then it might give you the strength to fight for something a bit more because you have some people in your corner. So that's another thing.
But like that goes to the point of like, we were talking about how I see when you interview someone, it's like a lot of times the non-writing EPs come with the production company you bring a project to. Mm-hmm. So I think it's like, I tell creators, like, if they're bringing a project, it's like, look for the production companies that you want to work with, and don't just take the first deal because they're like, oh, we want to shop your show. Oh, I'm signed with it. It's like, you can say no. Mm-hmm. If they want it, someone else also wants it.
Mm-hmm.
But if you feel like, and I remember I was chatting with a couple creators in the last couple of years where they were like, oh, we have this project here. I'm like, there? Really? That's the company that's doing it? And they're like, really? What do you mean? I'm like, they just like, you're two Asian creators making a very Asian show, and this company ain't that.
Mm-hmm.
It don't have anybody that reflects that gets that. And they're like, and I'm like, and I asked the question, I'm like, have you been getting a lot of notes on this? They're like, yeah, how'd you know? And I'm like, yeah, because there's no one in that team that would know the realities of what you're trying to create. So it's like, even beyond that, it's like, there's an EP, a development executive development coordinator person who moved a production company, and I brought it to the new company because it was less about the company and more about her, more about the individual, right? So even from the get-go, it's like you're looking for people that you want to bring onto your team that you want to work with and collaborate with.
It's so true. Like I have a lot of producers that I love working with, and I will always check in with them first and be like, hey, what you got, what you need, what you looking. I'll just like checking like what you need, like what you looking for. I will move heaven and hell to work with you again because you are a person who works well with me. You are protective over the creative, but you also understand like you've got something to deliver something to the broadcaster. I think that's where you want your producers to be. Like they are responsible to the broadcaster to make sure that they deliver this thing at a certain budget, and it's going to give you the amount of episodes you need, and it has all the artistic stuff. That's their job to make sure that the broadcast gets what they want, and they are working with you to make sure that happens. So when you find a producer who does that really, really well, and also you still like them at the end of the process, that's you gotta hold those people tight, hold them close to you.
I think it is good also, like to your point, like to ask. If you can, ask people that you know have worked with them. It's like, have you ever worked with them? What is it like? Because people ask me, and I'm always honest. I tell them like the good and the bad of working with the different companies that I've worked with. Or it's like, this, it might be this company. It's like, oh, your show's probably going to get made. But is it going to be our show at the end? I don't know. I mean, like, that's the reality, but it's like, what's your goal here? What do you want at the end? Like, there are other people where you might feel your creative will be more supported than others. And like, so to do your research of like the places that you're interested in. And then if you are, if you can find someone who had a show to like talk to somebody who's worked with them, it can be really helpful just so you know what you're walking into.
Yes. You don't do enough. We as creators don't do enough reference checks.
Yeah.
You need to like, and especially when you're young, you just say yes to the first offer
because it's so exciting.
Because it's so they want to make my show.
Yeah.
Everyone, look, if one person wants to, a lot of people will want to.
And in a way, it's like actually when you have less experience, it's probably even more crucial for you to know who you're signing up with because you really don't know any different, and they know that you don't know any different, and so they're going to be like, oh, this is how it goes, and you don't know that that's not like it's actually like the best time to try and like get somebody who's going to be like really supportive of the creative because that's the only piece you really do know. You know what I mean? And all the other business stuff like you don't know, and you need to like, it's very difficult to navigate in the beginning.
Talking about just switching to broadcasters, dealing with I always try like a lot of times producers try and keep a buffer between the creative and the broadcasters. I always try and remove that buffer because I do want the broadcasters to know I'm accessible. I'm not trying to cut out the producers, but I want to be with the producers when I'm talking to the broadcasters, just so that the broadcasters get a sense of like, okay, if there's something I want to address with the creative, but I'm feeling awkward about it, I can go to the producer. I know that they're cool. But if there's something that I just want to just like ask, or I'm also comfortable going to the creative and just asking that question. So I try and break down those barriers as much as possible. The thing I've realized about broadcasters, they're just people. They're just trying to make television. They're just trying to make their bosses happy. They're just trying to. So don't get overwhelmed about having conversations with broadcasters, because I do feel like what happens when producers try and separate the creative from the broadcasters, it creates this immediate kind of like, oh, it's the broadcaster. I got to be careful. They're just cool people. So so I would say like there are going to be times when you have, you disagree about what a show is supposed to be. Like, I think it's important to talk to your producer. Don't anger the broadcaster. Trust me, I've been there. You can challenge, you can have those conversations, but I think it's about being mindful and being respectful and just realizing that, they're they're not gods. They're just people just trying to do a job. And I think demystifying that, I think, will just help you with those relationships.
I think it does feel like as the years have gone by, there is like kind of a drifting, like more, because I remember like when we did like Private Eyes, as I said, which was the first show I did, and then doing Mary, it's like we were like it's like we talked to chorus all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like they were all, and I think also we don't do this a ton in drama, but we had table reads and they would come to the table reads. So it was like another place where they were kind of there with us and part of it. But yeah, we like really talk to them all the time. And now it's true. Like as time has gone by, it's kind of like you're not on the email or whatever, you know, we're like, wait a minute. Although you're still in the notes call. So it's like you're still going to be in the notes call anyway. So I don't know why they're creating more like, or who's that they, I don't know who they is and I don't know why they are doing it. Maybe.
Because on Kim's Convenience, CBC execs were always in the room reading with us.
Yeah.
And that was really nice. It was like very comforting. Like I knew the execs. They would come in. Sometimes they would give me like a compliment for a reading. Like that feels really good.
Yeah.
But I think COVID really changed it because then we stopped doing in-person table reads.
Yeah.
Right? Then it became like a set visit.
Yeah.
Once in a season.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right?
They just drop by.
Yeah.
And it's the broadcaster's coming. The broadcaster's coming.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. If anything you can do to break down those walls where I try to do it early. Like try to like it's interesting because I actually had a situation where I had 3 broadcasters on one show. And it was for Overlord and the Underwoods. We had BYU TV, we had CBC, and we had Nickelodeon UK. And one of the things I did once we got the green light was like, we need to have a meeting with all of us.
Yeah.
And I was just like, let's just all get on a call. Like I know everyone's gonna have different time zones or whatever. We all got on a call. Everyone talked about what they really like about the show. And one of the reasons I did that for me was because I knew, speaking to them individually, they all wanted something slightly different from the show.
Yeah.
And having them all understand that and be as transparent as possible allowed me as a showrunner to be like, listen, I'm going to get you 85% of what you want. But I also have to get Nickelodeon 85% they want, BYU 85% of it. And then it actually allowed me to use them against each other. Listen, Nickelodeon wants more farts. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
I got to throw in some more fart gags.
Yeah.
This is what it is. But breaking down those walls early allowed them to feel comfortable with me, and also allowed me to be like, when I got notes, I can just be like, oh, I'm wondering where this is coming from. I could just have a conversation with them. I didn't feel like it was an attack. It felt like more like it was a misunderstanding. And then now we've talked about this in other episodes. Wherever you can have conversations instead of emails, have conversations instead of emails. The tone in an email is always going to be what they think it is, not what it actually is. And especially for like racialized creatives, it's like especially important to like just have the conversation, because then they're like, oh, they're actually pretty cool person.
Yeah, you can ask the follow up, because I find that the first relay isn't necessarily the full note, right? So then I ask a follow up, and I'm like, oh, now I get why this is the note. It's actually this thing you want.
Yeah,
and that's more helpful. And it's a frustration because on Burbs I was so limited on time.
Yeah,
I couldn't sit in on the meetings, so I'd have to get them secondhand from you, other showrunners, other EPs, Scott. So I loved it when I could have that conversation, because I could at least have that back and forth. And I remember like there's a few times where I was able to have that conversation with CBC. I was able to sit on the notes where I could just like explain the point of view of why this is the way it is. And they're like, oh, okay, we get that now.
Yeah.
Well, it's a conversation. We get it, right? It's a collaboration. And every network wants to collaborate.
Yeah.
And you know, for people watching this, like, it's like people who are aspiring showrunners and content creators, whenever I look at pitch decks, I'm always like, you got too much here. You got you have 4 seasons arced out? No. You have every episode? No. Just, you gotta scale it back.
They don't want all that right now.
They don't want all of it right now. They just want to know the world.
Yeah, you can have it.
Yeah.
Just don't share it.
They want. I read one very recently where I wrote back, I'm like, you have 17 characters listed in your Bible. But I don't, but here's the biggest problem. I don't know who's the most important one. I don't know who your entry point into the world is. Yeah. Right? And I'm like, that's what you should focus on. So networks want to collaborate. They want to work with you. So I think much like I was talking about with non-writing EPs, with networks, it's like, okay, it's like recognize their point of view. They're trying to get considerations for what they're putting on TV. They have all the things there. So if you could have a conversation to understand it, that would be so much more helpful. And I want to avoid ever making it us versus somebody. You never want to make it us versus somebody. We want to be in it together. The versus for us should be getting viewers. How do we get viewers, right?
And like, I also will say, just to Anthony's point about like to have there is like managing your own relationship, but to have, as we were talking about earlier, it's like the network gets approval of people. So them knowing who you are and knowing what you're about and what you're good at is a good thing to have in your own life. So that then it's like later on they're looking for someone, they're like, oh yeah, like they have a good relationship with you. They liked working with you. They found you collaborative. They understand what you're about.
Yeah.
You know, like it's really good. So I think there was no point in staying away. And also it's always more clear, I think, when it's true, there's a lot of note deciphering, like what is the thing in here?
Like
and when you can just talk to somebody, you can.
Like the cryptics, you're what is the note?
Honestly, like I was doing something the other day and it was like, I got halfway through the rewrite and then I was like, wait, why am I? And then I just like flipped back because I had like gone through all the notes, made all my like what I was going to do, a plan of like what I was going to change, and then I was implementing it. And then I got, I was like maybe a quarter of the way through. And I was like, wait, why am I doing this? And I went back and I read the note and I was like, that's what that means. And everything I had done was wrong. But I was like, I finally now, after like a week of like all like now, but I was like, but we had tried to get on a call and couldn't make it. We didn't have enough time to do the call before everything was going. But it was like, I bet you if I'd had the call, I would have understood what this note was really about and that would have helped. So it's really everything. Yeah, it's beneficial for you and for the process to be able to talk to people and just get, it's like to be like, we're in it together.
But that's the difference between, like, as we've gone through the levels of production, writers, actors. With the network, it's a bit different because they have so much agency and say in what you're trying to do. So yes, when you're creating a show, you're trying to create your vision of the show, but then your job now is to execute your vision in their wheelhouse of what they want the show to be. And so I know with CBC, we would often ask, like when we were like casting new characters, like who do you see in this role? Like what do you see in this character? Just so we knew, just so we understood, and then they could feel like they were a part of it. And it actually was very helpful because there were times you weren't there for this season 1. Yeah. When we were casting a character named Sebastian. We had written this kind of wholesome neighbor character who they saw as like kind of like a kind of a sketchy neighbor, but like good intentioned. And we're like, who do you see? And they're like, we see Chris Locke. And in editing, you're gonna now edit a photo of Chris Locke right here. And I'm like, you want Chris Locke? Because Chris Locke, if we know him from the stand-up world, really out there.
So weird.
And I love Chris. And I'm like,
hilariously
you
weird.
Want Chris? Yeah, you do? Hell yeah, we're going to get Chris.
I was like, you don't know
I
what
wouldn't
you're
have pitched Chris because I was like, I just didn't think you'd want that. I didn't think you'd want such like an out there character. Totally changed the way we wrote the character as well. But it was like just a joyous moment of discovering something with the network of like, oh, you want to play here.
Oh, y'all are weirdos too.
Yeah. That's what you said. You're like, everyone's just trying to create something. Everyone's trying to be creative. And so once we got that, it's like, ooh. Then a couple times they pitched some names. I'm like, no, we can't afford. Firstly, we can't afford them. Everyone's trying to get Amanda Brugel. We can't all afford Amanda Brugel. Like,
she's busy saving people.
She's very busy.
It's always like when you get that note from the network, like, why isn't it just whatever? Because we can't afford that.
Yeah.
So that is what would happen. Obviously, send more money, and then there will be a helicopter, but there isn't, and that's why they're on foot.
That's why they're walking.
That's
why
they're walking. Yeah.
Last thing I want to talk about, a very important thing is about working with crews. I think one of them, and there's a lot to talk about here, but one thing I want to kind of focus in on is about crew appreciation. And I think it's one of those little things mean a lot. I know one of the things I try and do is I try to just know people's names. I remember like there are a lot of ways to do it. Whether it's just like just having a call sheet handy that people's names are on that, just like you don't need to memorize everyone's names. And but when a showrunner knows someone's name, it means something. It means, and I remember having a conversation with someone when they're like a daily on the show, and I didn't know their name. I walked up and talked to them, saying hello, and we're just talking about stuff, and they're like, and I was like, oh, so you're just here for? They're like, yeah, I'm just doing a couple of days. And like, oh, then what do you do? And I was like, oh, I'm the showrunner. And they're like, what? Why are you talking to me? And I was like, well, I talk to people. It's part of my process.
Yeah.
But I think little things like that creates an atmosphere where your show is just easier to make because people are pushing in the same direction. And I think it's also remembering that how much work goes into making a television show and how much work people are putting into this thing that you scribbled onto a piece of paper. I think it's people appreciate the appreciation, I think is what I'm trying to say. Like just coffee trucks, simple things, like, crew gifts, saying thank you at the end of the day. It's just little things like that go a long way. I would say wrap party. I would say don't do the coffee truck in a day when you know it's going to be difficult. Do it, but bring your coffee truck.
When they can go actually get the coffee.
Yeah.
Because it happens a lot where you get the coffee truck or the smoothie truck on a day where like people can't go get the thing because it's such a
heavy day. Yeah.
But what you're explaining is like every industry.
Yeah.
Every industry, the traits of a good leader are those who know names, respect others, willing to have those conversations. And even in this day and age, following back on social media, engaging on Instagram. Like I talk to so many crew members on Instagram.
Yeah.
And just being aware of each other's lives, right? Being aware of each other's wins. Like if you see someone you work with on another show, be like, yo, I saw that thing you did there. That's great.
Yeah.
Like just recognize each other's wins. But what it really comes down to is friendship.
Friendship.
What you've described is friendship. Like when you are having a relationship with a crew, when you create friendships, actually have real friendships with people. These people will come with you to every show you go on, right?
Right now, there's a lot of writers listening to this going, it's not me. I want fewer friends in my life.
Yeah.
But it's true. Like, but it is true. It is one of those things. But it's, and I would also say if you know that is a weakness of yours, bring people into the room where that's a strength. So then have them on the floor with you, so that you know that you're not the person that wants to be like doing all that. Then have a number two, so someone who is a little bit more like that, so that they can take some of that on.
Little Will Riker.
Yeah,
that's what we need.
Riker.
Picard didn't want to hang out with other people all the time. He didn't want to hang out with kids.
Will Riker.
Will Riker did that, right? Yeah,
I think it's a good point because I was talking to a producer recently, and they were just saying about showrunner. It's like, just like some people love being on set and some people don't, and I think it's nice when we don't, like, I guess, feel the pressure to be all of, you know what I mean? As you said, like if you have, not that, like when I just did the show for Morwen, because we were still in prep, we were really doing the whole, like, the room was still going on. We were shooting. We were in prep, so the whole thing. But I did 2 blocks on set, and it was great. And I like being there. And obviously, I have experience of doing it before, And like I just think it's like to be thinking about that. Like, where do you want to be? What are you good at? And delegate, hire.
Yes.
Bring more people into the process. That's good.
Yeah.
Merch, we do. I did a lot of merch on.
You're good with merch.
So good with merch. I would contact the merch company, Arctic Print, down here, but at the beginning of every season, and I'd be like, send me your new catalog or your best sellers, and I always look at what they had in stock, and then we could like build merch off of that.
I still got my Run the Burbs. I got my Run the Burbs hats. I got my Run the Burbs like fleece vest.
Yeah, well, that's yours. The fleece vest was yours.
Oh, that's right.
Alicia did these really beautiful tote bags, like not a cheap tote bag.
Oh, those are good.
Thick tote bag. Toques are always really popular.
Yeah. Yes, I got some toques.
I did baseball jerseys.
Yes. My son was wearing his baseball jersey recently.
I did vintage cut tees.
Yeah.
I got the entire cast on like art formed.
Yep.
Drawn, like an old vintage like horror poster, and then I got t-shirts. But then even within that, I didn't pay for your cheapest t-shirt. I ponied up for the comfort colors, which was the thicker cotton, cut like a vintage tee. You could wash them. So it's like, you put time. You just want to put time and effort into your thank yous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want you feel like your thank you was genuine.
Start early, because that those last days creep up on you so fast, and then you're like, oh, we forgot about the crew gift. Then obviously scrambling, what can we get? And then everyone gets a water bottle.
From another show.
We did for Shelved, we had these little because it was a library, we gave everyone little library cards.
Yeah.
And then also like little books that they can do their little
I'm gonna
writing
be
and
like,
stuff in.
Andrew, I need some 3D printing stats.
Oh,
That's what's gonna happen.
3D
I'm gonna be like, I
printer?
need it.
That actually, we got to put that in the budget.
Yeah.
We got to talk to
That's
the line
the big thing,
producer.
yeah.
We need 10 3D printers.
Exactly. When's the line producer episode? Did we miss it? No.
Yeah, you missed it. It was episode 3.
Yeah.
Come back.
Yeah. But yeah, just like being thoughtful with your gifts and like we're not on Taylor Swift's level. She gave everyone like $100,000 bonuses.
No, we're not doing that.
But beyond that, what she did was she gave everyone a handwritten note. And she said, it took a while to write all these notes, but it was worth it. I'm like, so beyond the money, the note is to me like really important thing of like, she took the time to recognize every member of the crew.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's like,
And when you sell it, it'll probably be worth even more than $100,000.
Yeah.
So it's the gift that keeps on
You
giving.
think?
Keeps on giving. Just, I mean, for the person that stole a bunch of her sequin outfits and then was like, you know what? I can sell all those sequin outfits, but you know what? I'm never going to bring them back because she was appreciative.
Did someone steal the outfits?
I don't know. That's what I would do.
Oh, that's what you do. Yeah.
Don't let me work on a Taylor Swift tour. I'm going to be like Denzel. I'm leaving here with something. I'm from Mount Vernon.
My boyfriend, we'll cut this out.
We're not cutting any of this out. We want to know what
you're like, it's live. Oh no.
Tell us about your boyfriend.
Yes.
I was just going to say he accidentally, went on vacation and he went swimming and he had his wallet in his pocket. He went snorkeling and he had his wallet in his pocket he'd forgotten. Anyways, he gets out, he realizes we go back in trying to find the wallet. We can't find it, whatever, thinking we're never going to find it again. And then he's getting all these calls on WhatsApp and it was like someone had found his wallet.
Oh, wow.
And he got it back. Anyways, the point of the story is that there had been money in the wallet and there was no money in the wallet. And the person who found it was like, I swear, when I found it, there was no money. And we were like, is that I was like, oh my God. Like, I was like, give this man like a finder's fee or whatever. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we literally thought, and it was like his health card was in it. You know what I mean? Yeah. It was going to be such a pain. So it was like, but I was like, I'm like, is it like, Taylor Swift, I found your sequined outfits, or did you take them and then bring them back for the, for the extra glory?
It's very clear that a bunch of fish stole that money.
The fish are dining.
How did they know there was money in the wallet?
They just said there was no money in it.
There definitely wasn't $1,500 in cash.
Interesting. I don't know. I don't know.
All right, we're getting.
How did you know the murder
We're getting off
happened?
topic.
How did you know there was a dead body?
We absolutely are going to keep that that story in the show because it's important because it's about appreciation.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And you did appreciate that person bringing the wallet back.
100%. I was like,
there was no money left in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I want to believe that they are true. That we're telling the truth. There was no money when they found it because someone else could have found it, taken the money, and just thrown the wallet because they don't care about returning it to somebody.
I think wanting to believe is something that every showrunner.
It's an important. This is the most important skill to have. Wanting to believe.
Wanting to believe.
Yeah.
Is an important skill.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we did way more than what I promised you.
Don't be an asshole. Be kind to your team.
Yeah.
Have conversations. Build relationships. Get things from the get go.
Build relationships. Manage them.
Yeah. Start early.
Start early.
Yeah, because if you wait, it'll be too late. That's right.
Whoa.
Oh man, I just got my Reverend Jackson on.
If you wait,
too late. It's gonna be too late.
That applies to a lot of things.
So many good sayings. I liked the input-output one too.
It's one I lean on quite a bit because I was like, I'm responsible for the output. Like you, and it comes from one more story. It comes from literally just again a Greg Daniels story. Like thank you Greg Daniels for giving me a job writing on The Office and being a great mentor. He did this thing like I don't know if one last story before we go. We got a couple minutes. On The Office, if you know the show, Jim and Pam got engaged in season 5. We shot that scene, super expensive gas station scene. We built a gas station. There was rain, cars whipping around. It was wild. It was fantastic. At the end, when we were deciding, when we saw the cut, there was a version where you could hear Jim ask Pam, will you marry me? And there was a version where we didn't hear it. We just saw it happen.
Mm.
And we were, the room was like split down the middle.
What side were you on?
I was on the side where I didn't want to hear it.
Okay.
Because I was in my clown bag. I was like, I don't want to hear it. I want to see it. I want to see it happen.
Yeah.
he was asking everybody. There was a moment where he literally was like, he was in the edit with the editor. Janitor comes in. He's, hey janitor, can you watch these two? He would just get input from everywhere. He would ask his kids. Whoever he could get input from. He was responsible for the output. He was responsible for whatever was going to end up on our TV screens. But he wasn't afraid. He wasn't intimidated. He wasn't worried about getting input from places, which is why I tell people it's okay to embrace notes. Input is input. It's fine. You need it to make the show as strong as possible. So he decided in the end so that we would hear it. And I was like, no. But then in season 7, when Michael was leaving,
yes,
him and Pam had a moment where they took off the microphones and they had their moment and you didn't hear it. And I was like, oh, he did the right thing. He saved it for the right moment. So I can't be mad that he didn't go with my very, very impassioned speech about why we didn't want to hear it, because he eventually did it with something else, which was way more important. So that's why I go with the input output thing, because I've seen it with a lot of showrunners I work with. They're good about getting input from places. Don't be scared.
Yep.
Yeah,
that's really nice. What a great way to end this podcast.
And that's it. We talked about so many different relationships. A big thank you to my guests here, Marsha and Andrew. Hopefully you all enjoyed this episode. Come on back for more. Thanks.
If you a friend of ours, we giving out self-help seminars. Hold yourself up with pride and spread love if you get involved. If you're looking where the truth lives, I can promise that you'll never find hubris. But we know that we cold and it's a fact, no cap. Sound days going stupid like.